still think great team members don't exist? Like, I've worked with over 1,400 7- and 8-figure business owners who said the exact same thing. Here's the real reason your team sucks and how to fix it fast. And it turns out it's not about finding A players. The problem is something no one's talking about, and it's probably sabotaging your business and your marriage right now. Now, I burned through dozens of staff, nearly torched my marriage, and finally found what actually works. So if you want a $10 million team, then give me 5 minutes and I'll show you how. See, over the past decade, I've been immersed in leadership courses, management programs. Like, I've probably spent close to $200,000 on coaches teaching me how to be a better leader. I've read every book, Good to Great, Extreme Ownership, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I learned all the frameworks. I've been through EOS. I've been through Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. I've implemented the one-on-ones, the KPIs, the culture building exercises. But nothing seemed to change. My team still dropped the ball, still needed me for everything, still lacked initiative. And I felt like I was doing everything the experts said, but I felt like I was drowning. Then, at one of the business masterminds I was a part of, I met this older guy called Alan. 8-figure construction business, 35 employees. But what I noticed was how he spoke about his team differently. Like, they were proactive. They were making decisions without him. They seemed to actually care about the business. And so I had to know, man, like, what was this guy doing differently? So at the morning tea break, I went up to him. I'm like, dude, what's your secret? Is it better pay? Is it equity? Is it some recruitment hack maybe I don't know about? And he just laughed and looked at me and he's like, dude, it's none of that. Then he grabbed a napkin, flipped it over, grabbed a pen, and he drew a box and he just pointed at it. And he said, this is why your team sucks. He said that this is your capacity right now, that the size of this container, it determines how much you can handle in your business and life. And so he starts pointing arrows, pointing into the container. He's like, you see, when you started your business, the demands were simple. Sales, delivery, basic stuff. Your container could handle it. But now you're at 7 figures. Team complexity, bigger decisions, cash flow stress, plus throw in family, health, everything else is pouring in. And then he shows the container overflowing. And he says, like, your container is full and it's overflowing. And then he explains, like, so what do most guys do at this point? They start throwing things out to make room for more business. First goes the gym, then go your hobbies, date nights, kids' sporting events, right? We start emptying our life to make room for work. But here's the problem. As your business grows, it demands more. And eventually, you run out of things to throw away. You've sacrificed everything and you're still drowning. So then he grabs his pen and he draws a second, much larger container. And then he tells me, but what if you didn't need to empty your container? What if you could just make a bigger one? And that's when it all clicked for me. So he went on, he showed this small container inside the big one. He's like, your current container, it's the one that's overflowing. It's only about 40% the size of what it could be. That you're operating with a container that's a third of its potential. And he reminded me, he's like, you're not just at full capacity, you're at 40% of your true capacity. And so your container isn't just full, it's also way too small. So I want you to think about that for a second. Like, you're drowning, working 60, 70 hours a week, can't handle your team, stressed out of your mind, and you're only using 40% of what you're actually capable of. And here's exactly how this destroys your team. You see, when you're operating at 40% capacity, when that container is overflowing, you literally don't have the bandwidth to recruit well. You hire in panic mode. You can't see potential. You can't distinguish between B players and A players because you're just trying to survive. But it gets even worse, man. Like, even if by some miracle you land an A player, do you think they're going to stick around? I don't think so, because at 40% capacity, you can't be the leader they need. You can't inspire them because you're barely keeping your head above water. Right? So you can't give them direction because you're changing priorities every week. You can't empower them because you don't trust yourself, let alone anyone else. Now, these guys, they want a leader who knows where he's going, who has conviction, who stays calm when shit hits the fan. But at 40% capacity, you're none of those things. And here's what nobody tells you about leadership. Your team doesn't give a damn if you've read Good to Great or know the 5 dysfunctions of a team. They're watching who you are, not what you know. Think about it like this. Would you want to work for someone who looks exhausted and stressed out most days, right? Who makes decisions and then second guesses them for a week, but talks a big game, but melts down at the first setback? Or do you want to be working for the guy who's got a marriage that's falling apart, kids who barely know him, who can't even enjoy a weekend with his family because he's mentally still at work, checking his phone every 5 minutes? That's who you become at 40% capacity. That's the leader your team sees. And that's why they're underperforming. Leadership isn't about tactics. It's about who you are when the pressure hits. And who you are is determined by your capacity. Now look what happens when you expand to 80% capacity. Everything in your life begins to change. You make decisions in minutes, not weeks. You're calm under pressure. You have presence, you have confidence, you have clarity. Suddenly, you're the leader that people want to follow. The same team that was dropping balls before starts stepping up. A players start seeking you out, not because you learned new management tricks, because you became someone worth following. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually expand my capacity? Well, this is where things get interesting. After that conversation with Alan, I spent the next 7 years developing and perfecting what's now called the capacity code. This is a method that's helped over 1,400 seven-figure business owners expand their container. When your container expands, you can handle twice what you're handling now. It's the same 24 hours, it's the same you're just operating at a completely different level. Now the code works because it's simple and it hits on 4 core pillars. The first is clarity. You become the leader with direction. Your team stops seeing you change course every week. Instead, they see someone with a 3-year vision they want to be part of. They know where they're going and why it actually matters. The second is optimization. Like you become the leader who values their time. No more 47 Slack channels and pointless meetings. You focus on what matters. Your team respects that you don't waste their time on BS. Now the third is discipline. Right? You got to become the leader who sets the standard. You do what you say you're going to do. You hold the line. Your team wants to meet the standard because they see you living it. And then the fourth is engagement. You become the leader who gives a damn. Your team feels seen. They know you have their back. They want to grow because you're invested in their growth. And when all these 4 pillars are brought together, they expand your capacity. You don't manage people anymore. They manage themselves. They want to win for you because you're finally the kind of leader worth following. But here's where it gets even crazier. The same team you probably might want to fire right now. They could be your A team in the next 90 days. And I know that might sound impossible, but let me prove it to you. One of the Rising Kings brothers, John, got a large plumbing business, and he was about to fire close to 30% of his warehouse team. 3 months after expanding his capacity from 37% to 76%, the same team he wanted to fire was now running the operations with minimal problems. And then there's Paul, transport company, couldn't find decent drivers and warehouse support. Once I had him up to 80% capacity, A players started to reach out to him in the business. Word got out that it was a great place to work, that he cared about his staff, that he was helping them grow, and it had solid leadership. It was the same market man, same salary range, completely different caliber of applicants. And this is no fluke. Like out of the 1,400 business owners I've worked with, 87% solve their team problems without firing anyone. So look, right now, based on the data I've collected over the past 10 years, there's a good chance you're probably operating at about 40% capacity. And every day you stay there, you're repelling good people and creating the exact team problems you're trying to solve. And every week you wait is another week of good people sending resumes to your competitors instead of you. And that's why I created the free capacity assessment that will show you exactly what percentage you're operating at right now. You'll see exactly which of the 4 pillars is bottlenecking you the most and get a personalized roadmap for where to start. So take the assessment now. It takes 3 minutes, and that will explain the last 3 years of frustration. And you'll finally see why your team struggles and exactly what needs to shift first. The link is in the description below. So brother, you can read every leadership book. You can take every course. You can try every management framework. But if you're at 40% capacity, none of it matters. You don't have the bandwidth to execute any of it. Fix your capacity and your $10 million team builds itself. And if you want to see exactly how to expand from 40% to 80% capacity in the next 90 days, watch this video next where I break down the morning routine that transformed my capacity and built a team that gave me my life back. Stay strong.